Subjects of Writing. I'm your host, James Kelly, and my co-host for today's show is Janet Corsi. Our guests are Katrina Kusa and her father, Joe. And we're going to introduce Katrina. And Katrina, please tell us a little bit about yourself and what you've done.
Okay. Hello, my name is Katrina Kusa. I am a 13-year-old author. I have published The Kingdom of the Lizards, and there are 2 more books on the way. Besides having the passion to write, I am a songwriter. I play the piano, and I am an aspiring actress. And I love to hang out with my family, and I have 3 dogs named Max, Penny, and Jacques, and I love traveling.
All right. And Joe, what is your involvement with Katrina? Are you managing her, or I know you're her father?
Yeah, so it's our only child, and we're just helping her with her passion and helping guide her down the right path. Where she finally ends up, we don't know.
Okay. With the children's books, you've written how many now? 3?
Well, she's wrote the first book, which is this one right here, which is The Kingdom of the Lizards. It's an award-winning book, both for national and state of Florida.
Okay.
It won juvenile fiction 6 through 12. And she's got a second book, which is coming out, which is, this is one of the illustrations, which is There Once Was a Cat.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, so cute.
And this one right here is her third book, The Girl in the White Dress. And what's unique about this one is that we've already sent this out to the film industry.
Yes.
And they've reviewed it, and they've actually accepted the book into what they call as the IMDb film database for producers to buy the rights to make a movie.
Mm. Now, that one's a little different than the first 2, I think. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. What's the difference between your books?
So The Kingdom of the Lizards and There Once Was a Cat, they're mostly animal-based, and they have the similar messages. Like, The Kingdom of the Lizards is about showing love and compassion to one another. It also has a message about bullying, while There Once Was a Cat has a message to not abandon your animals.
Huh.
But what's cool about The Girl in the White Dress is it's a kind of like a supernatural, kind of paranormal themed book, and it's about finding the light across a dark path. So, like, there's a light in every way that you go.
Okay.
Wow. Such talent.
Yeah, and so The Girl in the White Dress, that one is more of a serious, well, they're all serious, but they're children's except for the girl. Mm-hmm. That one's for a different audience in the sense that your first 2, what age group would you say the first 2 are for?
The first 2, I would say they're around 7 to 12, but even older adults could read those 2 books. While Girl in the White Dress is mostly like for young adults, so like for tweens, teenagers, and even for young women and men.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And what inspired you to write? Where did that idea come from to start writing?
So when I was 8 years old, I watched this movie called Lemony Snicket's, a series of unfortunate events. Mm-hmm. And I really got attracted to that story. So I made a little short story based off of that book called Strange Happenings. I started reading that book to my friends and to my family and to our relatives. And they all said, you should publish that book. Like, that's a really good book. So after that book has been done, I started writing The Kingdom of the Lizards.
Okay.
With my.
And did you read that to your classmates?
So not Strange Happenings, but The Kingdom of the Lizards, I have read at my old school called Royal Palm Academy. I read that book to young kindergartners, and they really enjoyed it.
I bet.
So what do your classmates think about you being an author? Because you also you're a singer and songwriter, right?
Yes.
So what do they think?
They really think that's cool.
Oh,
they
good.
say you should keep on doing it. I mean, it really sets me apart from a lot of kids at my school, like out of the ordinary, that they have a friend who does this much this many like occupations. I don't know really how you can say, but they really like that I'm doing these things, and they should say like they really want me to keep on doing it.
Good. Do you have plans for other books other than children's stories, or are you right now just focused on children's stories?
So Girl in the White Dress, I would say that isn't really a children's book. I would say that's more for older audiences. And every book that I write, it becomes more mature as it goes on.
Uh-huh.
So like more pages to read and more to really think about and like more mature. So
okay.
Because The Kingdom of the Lizards, I wrote when I was 10. And I really loved fantasy at the time, and I really loved our environment. Same as There Once Was a Cat, I wrote when I was 12. And Girl in the White Dress, I also wrote when I was 12. But I really have that thing with supernatural. I'm really like attractive to those kind of things. So I really wanted to have a book based off of that.
So do you think you're going to want to write in paranormal more in the future? Is that what you think?
No, I really like writing books based off of different genres. So, but mostly I really like to write fiction. I'm going to keep on doing fiction, definitely.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Now I know you're acting as well. What's going on with the acting?
So I was in this program called the Celebrity Experience, and a week ago, I believe, I went to London and I had to perform a scene in front of 10 of the most top agents of London in the industry.
Okay.
So I did get a call back, and there was actually a producer there from LA. So he received my call back and he accepted it. So I'm now representing Estillo Productions.
Okay.
And I am now contacting a few other agencies. Like I have to go to Austin, Texas in June for one of them to see if I'll make their callback. And we have done a little bit of callbacks also in Canada. So we're hoping that maybe one. And also Massachusetts and Atlanta. So
okay.
There's a lot. Yeah.
So you're getting to travel a lot.
Yes.
So are you using any of your travel for your experiences in writing in the future, you think?
Definitely, yes. Because the competition that I went, FAPA, that's where I won my award. So I traveled to Florida. So it was called Florida Authors Publishers Association. That's what FAPA stands for. So that's where I got my 2 bronze medals for The Kingdom of the Lizards. And they said that they're looking forward to hearing me later and they're really looking forward to me writing new books and definitely going into that competition.
It's kind of fun to hear you saying all this. I spoke with a young lady, or I spoke to a woman this week who has a son that they started traveling when he was only like 1. Uh-huh. And they started taking pictures of him wherever they were in the world, and they called it a toddler's adventure. And I think they're going to put it on YouTube. And then after that, he's getting older. He's 3 now, but he's very sharp, and he loves traveling as well. And in fact, they're getting ready to go, I think, to Jamaica next week. Oh. And so now they're going to turn that into Jason's Travels because they said he's too young to say toddler's adventure.
Right.
But it's fun to see young people get involved in the writing aspect so early. I mean,
wow.
Normally when you think of someone your age, Katrina, you don't think of someone who's already accomplished 3 books. And, you know, certainly that and the fact that you're acting and, you know, writing, everything. So I am curious, though, when it comes to the acting, we talked in the past quite a bit.
Yes.
Was there ever a time when someone was interested in your story, possibly making it into a movie?
No.
Because that would make an interesting movie.
That would be.
So, Joe, tell us a little bit about your background, because I'm just curious as to how Katrina inherited all this.
Well, I have no background in the literature space. I'm in technology, specifically the telecom industry.
Okay.
So I'm with dealing with zeros and ones, the new digital industry.
Uh-huh.
So I try to do as much as I can to support her with some of the newer technologies, like Katrina's on Facebook. She's also has her own website, KatrinaKusa.com.
Instagram.
She has her own Instagram, Twitter. She's being followed by about 1,300 likes right now on Facebook, which
great.
Keep that growing.
Yeah.
And we want to make sure people understand how to spell your name. It's Katrina, Katrina, and the last name is Kusa, Kusa.
Yeah.
And your website is at katrinakusa.com?
Yes.
Right. So if they just go to KatrinaKusa.com, they'll find your work and where they can pick up your books and stuff.
Yes. And you can also see the links to Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook on KatrinaKusa.com.
All right. So where's your next adventure going to be in traveling? Where are you going off to next?
Going to Los Angeles.
Okay. Is it for an audition?
No, it's for the same program, the Celebrity Experience. So basically, I have to perform another scene to 50 agents.
Oh, wow.
Like from 10 to 50. That's a pretty big amount, like pretty big difference. So I'm really looking forward to that, though. It was really, really fun when I went to London, and I met a lot of great friends there and really met up with really nice people. So.
All right. When you're doing the auditions, do they send you a script, or do you just create something to audition?
It depends because some auditions they give you a scene that you have to at least memorize or at least become familiar with it, while other auditions you have to perform a dramatic monologue or a contrasting monologue, so comedic.
Okay. That would be interesting.
Which do you prefer?
I really like comedic because it's just dramatic. It's more quiet, and they say that you should probably go with comedic because it's more lively and more like fun, and they can actually really see your talent more. Okay, so
we have a friend who's actually been on the show a couple times. Her name is Brenna Daly. Her mother's been on with us. Her mother's a producer, and she's in LA. And she's actually part of a comedy group there now. So she's decided comedy is the direction in which she's going to be going. First time she was on our show, she was 16.
Yeah.
But I think she's like 21 now.
I think she's just about 21.
Yeah. So maybe we should give you her information. You can look her up when you're there. Because she knows the industry. She's been in and around quite a bit now for several years.
Yeah. She just finished something with Penn Jillette.
Yeah. That movie might be coming out this year.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So Penn Jillette is with
Penn and Teller.
Penn and Teller, the comedy group that has a show here in Las Vegas.
Magicians.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
So we'll see what we can do. I'll see if we can get Brenna to contact you.
That would be great.
Yeah, Brenna was actually on our show. We had Joe, you might know who this is. We had Marty Allen on, the comedian Marty Allen.
Oh, Marty, yeah.
Yeah, he was on with us when he was 95, and Brenna was on with us. Now, Brenna was 20 then. And then we had another guy on named Ryan Popauser, who's also a comedian. He's traveling the circuit now. He's just starting out with his career as a comedian. And he wanted to finish up college. He went to Chicago, got his degree, and now he's gone back into stand-up. But anyway, they were on with us with Marty because we thought it would be fun because Marty was 95. And here she's 20, and Ryan was 21.
Yeah.
And it was so fun because Marty would talk about things, obviously, in 95 years in the business, that Brenna had no idea what he was talking about or who he was talking about.
Yeah.
And
he was teasing them, and they had no clue.
Right, yeah. And his wife was on with him, and it was really a good show. Yeah. So, we definitely, if comedy is what you want to do, it's really fun. But some people don't know that comedy is actually very difficult to pull off. You really have to be a good actor to be able to pull off comedy because it's more than just saying the lines.
Yeah, and timing is everything.
Yeah.
Yep.
How do you feel about that, Katrina?
I feel good.
Something tells me you're going to be successful at anything
you want
to
do. Yeah.
You're already almost done it all.
Well, and the fact that you've got your mom and your dad behind you as well. So I'm sure your mom figures into this somewhere.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. She's huge.
Does she travel with you when you're on the road as well?
As much as she can. We've got 3 dogs.
Ah.
And we just hate to put them into the kennel. So
Yes.
someone stays behind.
Yeah, I hear you. I'm there, the same situation.
Yep.
All right. So when it came to the children's books, I know that the idea came from seeing an actual lizard. I think you said on the schoolyard or something in the past. We talked about this.
Yes. And also, so when I lived in Florida, there were lizards basically scampering everywhere. And I used to read in my lanai, and I saw lizards of all different colors and all different sizes and different lengths. And that really sparked my attention. So I really wanted to create a story based off of the lizards.
And you don't live in Florida anymore, though.
No, I live in Massachusetts.
Mm-hmm. So that's got to be a little bit different. So has anything in Massachusetts inspired you as far as further writing for children's stories?
So definitely, I really love Salem, Massachusetts, with the witchcraft and like the different like theories there. So that really inspired me. And there's definitely a lot of history too in Massachusetts that I could definitely take to create a new children's story and to definitely make a new idea.
Yeah.
So. Mm-hmm.
Is that where the girl in the white dress?
No, the girl in the white dress, actually, I wrote when I was in Florida.
Where did that idea come from?
So I was in Canada at the time, and there were a lot of history about like different theories of supernatural, like paranormal. Like I love ghost tours, so that really inspired me to go from the ghost tours from Canada, just basically everywhere. That really sparked my attention because I really love the thought of paranormal. So.
We all do. I think James and myself both like to write a little bit into the paranormal.
Yeah, in many ways, even with what I write, even though I'm writing science fiction, it's kind of got paranormal throughout it as well. Yeah, I have 2 new books coming out May 19th. So one of them is a children's story called The Purple Caterpillar. And my idea didn't come necessarily from a caterpillar per se. To be honest with you, I have no idea why I wrote about a caterpillar. But yeah, my inspiration you're going to find as you get older and as you go along in life. Hopefully everything is great for you. But just keep in mind there's always ups and downs in life. Sometimes there's disappointments. You may not get the acting job you want or feel you should have deserved. Or, you may not be getting the press you want when it comes to your writing. But sometimes good things come out of all of that. And actually, The Purple Caterpillar came out of a moment that was a little bit depressing. I was by myself here in Las Vegas. My family's all back in Oklahoma. And I just sat down one day and started writing. And that's where my story came from. But like you, Katrina, I do try and make lessons out of everything I write. It doesn't matter whether I'm writing a children's story, a science fiction novel, or a dramatic piece. I always incorporate some life lesson in everything I write. And I think a lot of writers do that. Oftentimes people, we want to send messages out there, that will inspire or encourage or maybe change people's entire mood or perspective on life. And I know that's the way I write. And I'm getting from you, that's the way you write as well.
Yes.
Especially with your 2 children's stories.
Yes. Yes.
What direction does the book take when it came to the girl in the white dress? What is that about?
So the girl in the white dress is about this girl named Paris, and she lived a very hard life. Her father passed away when she was in her mom's womb, and she was very depressed in her life. She got bullied at school, and she really didn't have a friend. She only had an imaginary one. So whatever, but she didn't know about this, but she actually had a gift to see dead people, and Elsa actually was only a figure who died in a car accident with her mother and her brother named Daniel.
Okay.
And it's a really heartfelting story. I mean, you can get very emotional in most parts, but overall the ending is definitely very uplifting. It really shows people that even with the darkest parts of your life, you can definitely get like really like happy from those outcomes. Like some days you can be like miserable, while other days you can be very happy and very like uplifted.
Okay, good.
I wanted to write that story.
And are you planning on making that a series, or that just a one-time book, or do you want to take that character in different directions?
Well, right now, I would say that's like a one-time story. So I wouldn't really technically put that book into a series. But with the people that we heard about, because right now it's in the film industry with producers, and already someone told us that this story can definitely be made bigger. You can definitely develop more on the characters, and you can definitely have a different conflict with the story evolving around. So
So you never know. It might end up being a series.
yeah, you never know.
Yeah. When you turn it over to Hollywood, because I know you're getting your feet wet there, so does it look like once you turn this work over to them that you might lose a little control? How is that working out?
So right now we actually was talking to a producer, and he said that this book does have a really good chance of making it into a feature film, or even into like a feature film that can really result into multiple films as well, with the conflict evolving and everything. He said there are a couple of challenges here and there, but overall, he said that there's a pretty good chance that maybe one day this book can eventually go into a film.
And if that happens, did they talk about you staying on as not just the creator, but also as a writer for the other series if that were to happen?
Probably, because there once was a cat. We really wanted that story to maybe go into an animation film.
Yes.
Or, yes, because we thought that that book really has...
Yeah. I like that cover.
Good messages about don't abandon your animals, and we thought that this book has like really good color coordination. It's very bright. It also shows children and even adults that like love and take care of your animals and don't hurt them. And it also shows showing love and compassion to one another as well, even to the hard moments of your life.
Yeah.
I love that all of your books have such a warm, good message for everyone.
Yeah.
Adults, children, everyone.
And I like the illustrations. I really like them. They're very good.
It's cute.
Yeah, the illustrator is kind of old school. This is where they still take the paper, they wet it, they dry it out on a clothesline, then they do their illustrations, and then they do watercolor painting.
Wow.
Yeah. So we actually, these are all one of a kind, and we can either A, reproduce them, or A, frame them up and sell them. They're all one of a kind that we have.
So you bought the illustrations outright?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, those are nice. Very nice. Yeah. And that's one of the things I want to talk about. There's a lot of different ways one can go about getting an illustrator, and there's a lot of different ways you can work an illustrator into your project. If you don't have the money to necessarily go out there and pay for each illustration, because they can get quite expensive. I mean, I've had illustrators I had one guy who actually paid someone to do his cover, and he had to pay $1,700 for the cover. That's a little unusual, but so illustrations can get expensive. If you can afford them, that's great. But also, there's also ways of working it out. I have an illustrator who's getting percentages of the book. So, to be honest with you, the storyline's very important. Without the storyline, there wouldn't be a book.
Right.
But the illustrator can be just as important as the author themselves. So finding the right illustrator is really difficult sometimes. And I'm sure you went through several.
No, we've only been with one, and we don't.
Lucky
we don't
you.
Want to lose them at all.
Yeah.
we keep them busy full time on all illustrations. And the Once Was a Cat, there's going to be about 48 illustrations.
Uh-huh.
And we're putting together a galley for that right now. So we're doing something a little different. The first book was self-published. The other book, we're going to put together a galley and get about 100 to 200 galleys and send those out to find a publisher that will take on that book. But the folks that we're working with right now, the comments that we're getting is these are Disney quality illustrations. So it's great to hear, what we have going for us. And then we know the story is strong. But yeah, we're not going to give up on this illustrator. We keep them busy day in and day out.
Yeah.
Good.
Now, they're not. Are they the same illustrator that did the first book?
Yes.
Oh, okay. All right. What about now the girl in the white dress? So that really isn't illustrated. Is that correct? That's just the cover.
That's going to be black and white illustrations, and it's not going to be as many. But
yep, we see the girl in the white dress.
Yeah. But there's going to be some really nice black and white illustrations on that.
All right.
All right. Well, that's unique.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm working with Jan. Jan's daughter-in-law is actually doing my illustrations for me, and actually I just got them this morning.
Yeah. So cool.
Yeah. So it is fun to see a project that you've had. My project's been in the work for 22 years. So
wow.
It's taken me that long to get to this point with that book. And there's a lot of reasons why. I mean, as a writer, I have, hundreds of ideas for stories, 26 projects that I've started, and probably only like 3 that I finished. But then I do radio as well, so I'm quite busy. But, it is fun to see anything that we've done come to fruition. And you're so young yet, Katrina.
Oh, my gosh.
I mean, it's amazing what you've accomplished already at 13. I don't know how you're going to keep up with yourself in the future. How do you top yourself?
Yeah,
that's the thing.
Yeah, what's going to, other than, I guess, she could be president of the United States.
Yeah.
That'll keep you busy. But think of the book you'd write from that.
But, go ahead, Joe.
I think the goal is this is a good supplement while she's going to school.
Right.
She's not going to forget about school. I mean, even if you're an actress, you have to get a college education. And,
yes.
And when the call comes, you can go and maybe break away, do a film, but you still need to follow on your education. So we'll see where it takes her.
Yeah, and there's a lot of people in the industry that children on different series that still get a college degree,
Oh, absolutely.
So many actors go on and get to the degree. As a matter of fact, I don't know if you watched The Big Bang Theory, but the one actress that plays, she used to be Blossom
Amy.
on television. Yeah.
Amy.
She has a degree, I think, from Harvard.
Yes, she does.
In biology.
Yeah.
So, definitely you want to keep up with your schooling. I'm a firm believer in that as well, that you should go ahead and get your degree, We were just talking, we had a guest on earlier today on a different show, and we were talking about how difficult it is, especially when you become an adult and you're trying to make it in the world. Oftentimes, we're not afforded the education that you would have, like with your dad. He's making sure you're going to have all those things.
Right.
But he went back to school at 35 and got his degree, and ended up being in a field that he never thought he would be in. So, which was a technical field as well.
Right.
So it is interesting how the journeys that we go on, and it's fun to see someone at your age already tackling so many things that most of us don't get to tackle until we are an adult.
It's so inspiring.
Yeah.
I'm just totally blown away, because I remember being 13 and it wasn't the same 13 you are. I was just happy if I got my homework done.
So, Joe, where were you at 13? What had you written?
Nothing. Go from school, eating my snack, running out the door, and just being home at 5 for dinner.
Yeah.
Right. Street lights come on.
Yeah.
I
wasn't quite like that. I was somewhere in between Katrina and you, in that, I wasn't really a kid per se, but at the same time, I was very academic as a kid. I actually did far more than I tell people. But the thing is that, we're all different, and that's what's fun. But what I like, the dynamics that I see with Katrina that I like, is the fact that, Joe, you and your wife are so involved with her.
Yes.
I think that's so important.
Absolutely.
Because oftentimes kids are out there trying to figure out what they want to do in life on their own. And it's not easy. And I always tell people, and Katrina, you may go through this as well. You never know. It doesn't matter if you get to college and you decide, now I want to do something different. Maybe now I want to be a doctor. Because you never know. And that's perfectly okay as well. The main thing is you've got to do what you want to do in life. And right now, what you're doing is fantastic. And like Jan said, it's very encouraging to other kids to see what you're doing.
Yeah.
Because sometimes kids are lost. They don't know where to go. And sometimes they don't have two parents involved in their lives. So you might be touching some child out there who thinks, what can I do? Where can I go? And maybe you're encouraging them to write or act or do something they may never have thought about doing before. In other words, the possibility's there. It's always there. It doesn't matter how old or how young we are.
Right.
You can still do whatever you want to do. It's up to you.
Yeah.
You're an inspiration even to somebody like me who is a procrastinator, because I think, oh my gosh, you have a really busy life at your age, and maybe I'm just lazy.
Well, in between shows, what you don't know is we got a phone call from a fellow author he's involved in an event we're doing here May 19th, and he chastised her.
Yeah.
Because she has a book out there, and then she has another one, actually 2 follow-ups to this series. Yeah. And he chastised her like, why isn't that book ready
Why
yet?
isn't it out there? Well, I tell myself I'm just too busy, and the long and short of it is I watch too much Big Bang Theory.
And Facebook.
I don't do as much Facebook now as I used to, but yeah. And it's inspiring that you're able just to keep doing this. I don't imagine your dad stands over the top of you telling you to write, does he? No, you're just doing it on your own. My hat's off to you. I love
So
that.
how do you structure your writing? Is it just an inspiration, and when you're inspired, you sit down and write?
I have over 60 ideas in my head that come out like popcorn. So like, anyways, I get struck by one of them, and then basically I process an idea out of it, and then from that idea I create the characters. Because to me, as writing a story, you definitely need to think about your characters' thoughts and their emotions and how they're feeling about their daily life. Because to me, I really want to have the characters actually like be in their shoes at that moment. Like, I want to be in their shoes. So my writing process is definitely creating from an idea that pops in my head, and I just structure a story out of it with its plot. And that's how I really wrote The Kingdom of the Lizards and the rest of my stories.
Have you ever written down any of the other thoughts you have? You said you had 60 ideas in your head. Have you put any of those ideas on paper?
Yes.
Okay. Because I do that too. A lot of my concepts come from dreams. And I have vivid dreams, and they're like a movie when I dream them. And I'll get up the next morning, and I can't wait to write them. Sometimes I'll wake up at 4 in the morning and literally go over to the computer and write something down. Now, I have the complete outline for a book or a movie idea, and literally it's all there. My first novel that I published in 1995 was based on a dream. So, it is important to pay attention to those. And someone once was on our show, I think it was Gregory Compass. He's an author, and he's written, numerous books.
Yeah.
But Gregory actually does the same thing. And what we found, in fact, a few authors have done this. They'll write an idea down, and they'll have their logbook of ideas. And they'll find that sometimes when they're writing a story, they can go back and pull from that to add to another story.
Yeah.
So the ideas that you had for one might be incorporated with another.
Right.
So it is good that you're writing those things down, because you really need to have. Plus, we forget things, you're young, but when you get older, you forget.
Yeah.
So we have to write them down.
Do any of your characters, are they bad people?
I would I wouldn't technically call him bad. I mean, I do have antagonist characters, definitely. Like in Girl in the White Dress, I have Mr. Demon, and he's a pretty evil man. He doesn't change throughout the story, so he's pretty flat, but the Kingdom of the Lizards, the evil character in that one is Daniel, but he changes throughout the story. He starts to become the friend of Clara, and he gives her back. Well, he doesn't technically give her back to the lizard, but he learns from what he has done, and he changes his whole behavior around.
Very cool.
How do you develop that character? I mean, if that's not your personality, so do you immerse yourself in that character to think about what would he do or what would he say?
So definitely I would say how I get my characters is definitely from the people around me that I actually see, and I can really see from their thoughts and their feelings and what they're doing. So the Kingdom of the Lizards, those characters got inspired by kids at my old school, while the rest of the books really got inspired by me just thinking in my own head, how would this character react if he does this or that? And that's how I really do my characters.
But if you have a character, like you said, this one character is not necessarily a good guy, do you put yourself in his place as far as how he would react to things, or what he would? Oh, you do. So you actually have to become that character in your mind.
Yeah. Even if you don't like them, you still have to be in their shoes at that moment of time.
Right. Because even when we're basing our characters on real people, which I think most authors have a tendency to do that, because we have to have a concept or an idea of who that character would be, we still, in our minds, develop that character in our own mind, if that makes any sense. Like we amplify, or what do you want to call it,
Create.
Well, yeah, but there's another word. I just can't think of it right now. But, so you have to do that as an author. And as you get older, you're going to find that that's going to be an interesting task to do. I have a book that came out in 95 called The Emblem, and one of the characters in it was a really, 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 really bad guy. And it was really hard for me as an author to take this person to the place where he had to go. And I thought, what are people going to think about me as an author if I write this character this way? And I think as an author, what you're going to find is you have to forget about what someone's going to think or say about you. Because that's not you, it's a character. And oftentimes people want to associate, especially if they know you, they want to associate you with that character and think, how could you have written that? Or how would you have known this about that person? Where did that come from? And you just have to learn to tune that out, because a good writer doesn't care what someone else is thinking. You have to get that character's process, his thought and mindset out there in order for them to understand the character. It can be good or bad, but certainly when you're writing something bad, that's when the good part, people don't ever associate you with those characters. But if it's a bad character, they'll often say, where did that come from? Why did you write that?
Yeah.
So you'll learn that as you get older.
Yeah.
So, do you have any questions for me?
Well, just kind of in the publishing space, how are you doing self-publish for your new book?
Yes, I am. And I know that you did that as well, I believe. Is that correct in the beginning?
The first one, yes.
Yes. And I've always self-published. I started in the industry at a time when we didn't have the internet to fall back on, and we didn't have digital publishing. Today, you can go and put your books on CreateSpace or Smashwords or now Barnes & Noble and Ingram Spark, and you have an audience. You can garner an audience right away because you've got, as Katrina was saying, Instagram, Facebook, Google+. There's so many outlets now in which you can do that. The time I started, you did not. Everything was done on what's called plates, and I'm sure Katrina would have no idea what that is. Do you know what a negative is when it comes to cameras, Katrina? I know Joe does. But negatives are just the black and whites of a picture. Often in the old days, when someone took a picture, you could see a negative that the actual picture was printed from. Well, when I started publishing, that's what they used. They used negatives, and there would be 8 pages. there would be 8 pages of a book on one sheet. And then they would run those through a machine and cut them and then collate those to make the book. So it's changed dramatically since that day, because now you just upload a file and then the printer prints it on the other end. You don't even have to see the book itself, even to send it to a friend. They just print and send it to the friend. You don't ever have to touch it. That's a lot different than when I started. So the whole industry has changed dramatically since then. As a self-publisher, there's pluses and minuses. And I know because you've done both, you're traditionally published with the second book. Is that correct? Or will be?
We're trying to.
Okay. What about The Girl in the White Dress? Are you self-publishing that one, or was that going to be traditionally published?
That one we're going to try to do traditional also. We're going to try to do a galley for that and move it around the publishers.
Have you approached any of the traditional publishers yet?
Not yet. We have people in the industry that will help us do that.
We just had a guest on a prior show that I think he said he went to Rosewood Press or something like that. Rosewood Press, I believe it was. And they just started doing paranormal. So it might be an interesting venture for you to check them out. The reason is because if you find a traditional publisher that normally they basically did romance, but they're trying to find a new area to go in a different direction. So those are the people you kind of want, because they're eager enough they may pick you up as a a publisher. And it's not always easy to get like Simon Schuster or some of the bigger ones. That's really difficult.
Right.
The advantage you have is that they're interested in that book as a potential movie.
Right.
That is your ace in the hole. That's really a big thing. Because when you present your synopsis to them, you can let them know that. And that might encourage them to want to pick up the book. The one thing you don't want to do is go out there and self-publish first. So I know you self-published the first book. So you're going to have a hard time finding a traditional publisher for that book. But with the second book, if you let them know that you self-published the first book, but you really don't want to self-publish the second book, that will get their attention, because they don't like to take on a book that's already been published. However, once you get them to pick up the second book, then they'll pick up the first book and redistribute it for you.
Yeah.
So it's a tricky business, and you got to learn the ins and outs of it. But just know that it's really hard once you've self-published a book to get an interest in that book. We had there's a young lady that we always talk about on the show who used to sell about 8,000 to 9,000 copies of her book every month on the internet.
Yeah. And
she got picked up by a traditional publisher after 3 years. She had sold over 2 million copies of her work. And it was a traditional publisher. I forgot, McGraw-Hill, I believe, picked her up. And once they had published her, they weren't able to market her as well as she was able to market herself. So after 3 years, they gave her rights back to her, and she's back to self-publishing again.
Yeah.
53 of the top Amazon books, out of the 100 top Amazon books last year published, 53 were independently published. So if you can figure out angles and marketing and figure out the marketing end of it, that's the biggest thing.
Right.
And you could do quite well as a self-published book. However, if you're after a traditional publisher, we had one guy, Fred, what's Fred's last name? Rayworth.
Yeah.
Fred was determined that he was going to get a traditional publisher. After 367 query letters, he finally landed a traditional publisher.
What?
Yeah.
So if you're persistent, somebody will be interested. I think for you, Katrina, you're probably not going to have a hard time finding someone. Have you sent out query letters yet?
A little bit, but we're open. So we're here to put the word out. If someone wants to talk with Katrina about publishing her books, we'll definitely talk with you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's for sure. And that's what this show's about, is trying to help the authors. I like to interview the authors, but I like the knowledge, and especially, Katrina, what you're sharing with us today. You're sharing knowledge for other kids and giving them inspiration and ideas on how they could go out there and write a book. Yeah. I talk to kids all the time who say they want to write this book, but they think that they're too young or that it's too silly. And I don't believe in that. I don't think there's anything too silly, first of all.
Nope.
because you never know who it's going to appeal to. It could be appealing to a kindergartner, but you never know. It could be appeal to a young adult. Depends on the story itself. So I always encourage kids, if that's what you want to do, write it. Send it in somewhere. If nothing else, as an article to a blog magazine or something, and get it published.
Yeah, a chicken soup type story.
Send it into an anthology if it's a small enough story.
Yeah.
When the two children's books that you have, I'm hoping you get picked up by a traditional publisher for the second one. I really do. But assuming that doesn't happen, are you willing to take on the challenge of self-publishing that one as well?
Yeah, we'll do self-publishing if we have to. Going through the first book self-publishing, the second ones will be very easy.
Yeah.
But we do want to find someone that believes in Katrina and will publish her books and then tie on to her and see the other books that come out. So whoever kind of partners with Katrina is going to get the second book, the third book, the fourth book, the fifth book.
Right.
Yeah. So they're buying into who Katrina is
now. When you finished the first book and you went out there as a self-published author, did you go to any bookstores and do any signings or schools?
We did school book signing. It went very, very well. We
went to village school.
Yep, we've gone to another public school. I think it was third grade. We read the story. Very, very good. It's great to see young kids hear the story. We've dropped our books off at a few bookstores, and we've done the digital type marketing, which is over Facebook,
Instagram.
But I think what we've learned is you really have to have a brand name for people to find you.
Right.
They're not going to put the book in the front window when you walk in the door. There's so many other big names that are well deserving.
Well, plus they do pay for that, by the way.
Yeah. So, we're just doing it, the traditional way, meaning hard work, get a great story out there with a well produced product, and we're hoping someone finds Katrina.
Joe, when you published the first book, did you went through CreateSpace, correct?
No, we used a self-publisher called Archway Publishing.
Okay.
Oh.
Yeah. And so that particular book, we got paperback and hardbook copies produced. We don't do POD. We didn't like the actual POD quality, so we actually did the traditional printing with a beautiful quality paper, so that when people buy it, it's a beautiful product, and they can keep it for years.
Okay.
So, and we've set it up so that the distribution's through Ingram Micro, Taylor Baker. So there's a 6-month return policy for folks that buy the book, and if they can't sell it, they can have the book returned and refunded their money. So we ask the bookstores to take a chance. We're open for book signings wherever they may be to help promote Katrina.
Now, do you have on the back of the book? You have, I'm sure, all the necessary ISBN and all of that, your barcodes.
Yeah, well, going through Archway, which is a subsidiary of Simon & Schuster, they use the same, per se, quality standards as Simon & Schuster would. So, yeah, we don't have any of those difficulties that maybe other self-publishers have seen. I mean, we're in all the ordering systems, whether it's Barnes & Noble or Amazon or Kobo or these other ones that are almost global. I would say we're almost global, but not quite global. So,
have you contacted any of the bookstores like Barnes and Nobles to try and get the book to do a signing at those stores?
Yeah, we have. We've gone locally into those stores, and it's a process, and it's not as easy as you may think. There's time constraints that the stores have. But we also have to prioritize our time too. We've got a lot of other things that are going on. So sometimes, we can do a lot more through digital marketing than going to a specific bookstore just in the local community.
Do you know if the markup on that book when it's sent out to the stores is like a 40% markup or 55%?
They get 55%.
Okay, so that's good. Really, it should be easier for you to set up signings in Barnes & Nobles. From everything you're telling me, you've got all the credentials necessary, even as a self-published author, to do the signings at Barnes & Nobles. I mean, I know in this city, you could be doing signings at least 2 different stores for Barnes & Nobles.
Yeah.
So, I'm a little discouraged to hear that it's not as easy back there on the East Coast, because Barnes & Nobles is a chain. I will tell you this: a lot of that has changed with Barnes & Nobles to where they're only allowed to do consignments like 2 or 3 times a year. But yours isn't really a consignment per se, because yours is actually coming. It's being distributed through Ingram or Baker and Taylor, and I don't know why that would be difficult to get the signing set up. You have to do it a month or 2 in advance. Maybe it's the calendar that's an effect for you, because maybe you don't know where Katrina's going to be in a month or 2.
Well, we've been in the stores. We've made ourselves available. Of course, they tell you, there's a specific person that's assigned to this. But I think, in Florida, it was easier. In the Northeast, I think it's a little bit more difficult.
Huh.
I think they, I don't know. I think they kind of shy away from it a bit.
Yeah, we've talked about it so much on the show, whereas you would think that the stores would want people to come in and do book signings because they bring in family and friends, and just to support local authors. To me, I think it's a great idea. We have a lot of independent stores now in Las Vegas. We didn't used to have, but they're cropping up here and there. And, and they really do support local authors. So if you can find independent stores in and around your area, oftentimes they're more open to letting you do signings. And signings is a key to what you want to accomplish. And the reason is it gets your word, it's word of mouth. It gets notoriety out there for you. Because if someone buys your book, Katrina, and they like it, especially a parent, they're going to say, oh, my son or my daughter really loved this book. They're going to tell another family member or friend in another state, because in this day and age, very few families live in the same city, with the exception of mine. Live in the same city or in the same vicinity. Usually, we branch out more all over the place, all over the United States or wherever, or the world for that matter. So that's how you get it out there, is word of mouth, and by going out there and doing those signings, that really helps you. When you travel, like when you went to Great Britain, you probably could have set up a book signing over there somewhere, because we just interviewed some from Great Britain. They have Barnes & Nobles there.
Yeah.
And you could actually do a signing even when you're on the road somewhere. Like spend an extra day there and just do a book signing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, it's a great idea.
Yeah.
So keep that in mind in the future.
Yeah.
I think my eyesight's really bad. Hold on, let me look at the clock here. I think we're running out of time. Yes, we are.
Oh, my.
So I do want to hear more about where we can find your books. So please repeat your websites where we can go and get the books, the first book.
So you can find my first book at katrinakusa.com. You can find my book also on Amazon.com. That's listed nationwide. You can also find my book on Book Grabber.
Okay.
And you can also find my book on Facebook. There's a link to Amazon from there. And also from Twitter, there's a link from there as well.
Okay. And what projects do you have coming up when it comes to where you're going to LA, you said, for an audition? Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, is that going to be for a television series, or what is that for?
For agency.
For agents, okay. To get an agent, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I was going to ask you that too. I'm going to ask you real quickly. Have you tried to acquire an agent for your book, or have you done that, Joe?
We have. It's difficult.
Yeah.
Nobody, unless you are a common household name, that's continually echoed over the air, it's very, very difficult.
Yeah.
So the way that we're trying to get around that is, again, produce these high quality books. You've seen those illustrations, which are, as people are telling us, are Disney quality illustrations.
Yep.
So we're open to talking to agents. Anybody that would like to contact Katrina.
Well, hopefully in the future we're going to hear that you found an agent. We're going to hear that both books are with the traditional publisher, the new ones, and then we're going to hear that she's got an acting career that just took off.
Right.
And when all this happens and you're so big that it's hard to book you, you're not going to forget us and come back and do an interview, right?
No.
Everyone says that. No worries.
Yeah.
Hey, we mean it.
We mean it. It is fun
Yeah.
because, like I told you, we had Brenna Daly on when she was just 16, and it was so much fun to see where she is now and what's going on. It is fun. We're going to have her back on, and we originally had it slated for her to come back on Marty Allen's 100th birthday, but unfortunately, we lost Marty a few months ago. Yeah. So but. We'll do another show in remembrance of him.
Absolutely.
With Brenna. And maybe you can take his place and be on with Brenna and with Ryan Propauser.
Yeah.
That will be so much fun.
It would.
They're not that much older than you, but they're actually enough older that you would be the young one and they would be the older.
Yeah.
All right. So Joe and Katrina, thank you so much for being on the show. And you're welcome. And if you want to learn more about our show, just go to aspectsofwriting.com. That's aspectsofwriting.com. All the links to the show for the syndications for iHeart, iTunes, Roku TV. Oh my gosh, we got a lot of outlets, and we're on 14 terrestrial stations. So just go to aspectsofwriting.com, and you'll find toward the middle of the front homepage places where you can click onto, and it'll take you to the different links. But you'll be able to hear the show once it broadcasts. I will let you know the date once we have it on our schedule. We always pre-record our shows. So you'll know the date, and you can go there and listen to it on Saturdays at 1 p.m., which would probably be, I think you're on the East Coast, so that'd be 4 o'clock your time. Yeah. And then we'll repeat the show, which, Katrina, you better be in bed at this time. We repeat the show on Sundays at 9 p.m.,
Midnight,
so, you're not going to... But anyway, so we'll let you know when all this is going to air, and just go to our links, and you can listen to the show. And I'll also be on youtube.com. So until next time, this is your host, James Kelly, reminding you, if you can dream it, you can write it. Thank you so much for being on the show.
You're such an inspiration.
Thank you.
Thank you.